I'm ready.
Okay, so hi Chet. So
Claudia.
everybody, this is Chet. He's been on here before, Chester Durnas, who is an MD and specialist. He helps with hospice and trains the nurses how to deal with end of life and goodness knows so much more. But you have literally just mentioned something that is really important. So please take it away, Chet.
Okay, there's an article just came out in the BMJ, which is British Medical Journal, and the title of the journal article is "The Risk of Dementia Following Gabapentin Prescription in Chronic Low Back Pain." Now, gabapentin used to be known as Neurontin. It originally was developed for seizures, but as an anti-seizure med, it wasn't that good. So they repurposed it as a adjunct to pain control and neuropathy, which a lot of people have. And it's very commonly used, actually, especially in this country. And uh, it has been shown that depending on how long you use it, will increase your risk of dementia by about, let's see, what's the bottom line here in this article? About 40% or so.
My
That
takes it
so
years.
especially younger individuals, which the ones that will be taking it for neuropathy, and that number encompasses also something called MCI, which is cognitive impairment. So it's like pre-dementia, that you're there but not quite there, sort of like Biden in his early years, where you lose pieces of your perception, your mind, memory, and stuff like that. So that's kind of interesting that a medication that's commonly used, such as this one, for a long time, the longer used, the higher the risk of you developing cognitive impairment. So
Wow.
gonna be uh, says associated with increased risk of dementia and cognitive impairment, particularly in non-elderly. And these days, elderly are like 65 and above. So, as far as I'm concerned, people under 65 are not
Yeah.
old. So, we're talking people in their 40s. They're starting developing to develop dementia using a common drug that's very commonly used for augmentation of pain control. So, if some of your viewers and listeners are on gabapentin, I would kind of reevaluate: do you really need that medication?
Yeah.
Risk
So
of
I knew so Chet, I knew that Benadryl that is often used for like I see wince, literally wince there. Often used for like restless leg syndrome and going to help people sleep. And that's terrible, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, back in the Middle Ages, we had witches that flew on a broom and stuff like that. It's a drug from the classical called anticholinergics. So belladonna, those medications uh, uh, mess up with some neurotransmitters in your brain. And the older you get, the more sensitive you are to anticholinergics because cholinergic agents like that is you can begin hallucinate from the medications. So there's maybe a truth that those ladies actually flew on broomsticks because if they use enough belladonna, those type of medications that Benadryl is part of it, they would induce hallucination. They would dance with the devil, whatever. These days, you get it for sleep, especially in the elderly because it's over the counter. It's cheap. Everybody's using for allergies. It's in the over the counter sleeping agents and so on. So if you're sensitive to those type of medications, one, you will sleep. Two, you may have pleasant dreams. Most often you might be hallucinating and freak out. The other problem is due to cause constipation. So when you get older, last thing you need a little bit more constipation. The train ain't moving and he's stopping it. Uh, uh, get blurry vision and also affects your balance. So not only you sleep, you hallucinate, you get constipated, you get dizzy, and you fall down and break a hip. And that's when you see me in a nursing home.
All right. Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
Mhm.
So all these drugs, I mean, so Chet, just going back to gabapentin, my mum has been taking gabapentin for neuropathy, like nerve pain, for
Mhm.
probably 20 years.
Yeah,
She's 87.
right. Uh, when I'm internist, but actually spent 40 years doing geriatrics. So anytime I notice a patient gets started on gabapentin, they had a higher risk of falls. Some of them had some mental status changes, increased confusion, and so on. And when somebody's, let's say, in their 80s and stuff like this, oh yeah, they're getting Alzheimer's, they're getting this, but they weren't hallucinating before they started medication. So, you know, and it's, to tell you the truth, it's not that great for neuropathy. The data has been a little goosed, as they say. I mean, I think Pfizer developed it. I think they get to pay some fines for pushing the drug for uh, unapproved type of stuff. So they came out with pregabalin, which is the precursor to gabapentin, which is safer and it's a little more difficult to get, but it's more effective for neuropathy. The other ones, there's some antidepressant that also help with neuropathy, which are a little bit safer than gabapentin with less side effects. So, check with your doctor if that might be an option as well.
It's well, I mean, hopefully, if it's coming out in the British Journal, then they're hopefully they're checking.
Yeah, BMJ is on the same level as New England Journal of Medicine in this country. So there's BMJ in England, New England Journal of Medicine in the US, but they're same level, the top of the line scientific or medical journals.
So again, what you're saying is if somebody is younger and is taking gabapentin, so say somebody 35 suddenly is in pain, they're prescribed gabapentin,
And
and they are more likely to get early onset dementia.
they're the risk of developing dementia increases dramatically. And we're talking at an earlier age as well. Most people that get diagnosed with dementia are over like 70 and so on, which makes sense. Your brain kind of slowly declines. Um, I used to explain dementia to the families such as, you have so many neurons, right? And you lose a certain amount at a time. And, you keep losing it, nobody knows the difference. But then you reach the threshold, let's say a billion cells.
Mm-hmm.
You're losing a million a day, whatever time period. So when you're like in trillions, the million doesn't make any change, right? But when
Yeah,
you get to that, that's 1,000. So each time you lose the million, you see more and more and more and more changes till you get to the point where you barely scraping along and you lose some. It's like a dramatic change, and everybody says, "Oh yeah, this happened and she got demented." No, the dementia was going on. If you look back, it's just when you cross the threshold where you can no longer compensate, I mean, it hits the fan.
right.
And same thing with the way they looked at it. Uh, it increases the risk. So someone in their 40s are on it for, let's say, 10 years, their risk of getting dementia is like 40% higher. So they will get it at an early age. So instead of getting it in their 70s, 80s, they'll get it like in 60s, maybe late 50s, which is not a good thing. I mean, that's when you have some time, you get retired, you want to take a trip.
Yeah, exactly. You want to go traveling, and then
And you
suddenly,
forget where you're going, you lost.
yeah, you're lost. It's
Yeah.
it's it's horrible.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
it's
preventable.
and it's preventable. So, it's like, do these drug companies? I don't suppose that they're just finding it out now. They
Yeah,
don't.
yeah. I mean, this was not a company sponsored uh, study because the drug's already generic and there's no money in it unless you want to repurpose it. So the company will not pay for research on that drug. But
Right.
that was an observational study in England. Let's see. what they say about it. They looked at 26,500 adults with six or more gabapentin prescriptions and had increased risk of dementia. So they looked at those people that, I mean, 26,000 people is a big sample size.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
So
lot of research. Yeah.
so statistical errors are very low in a group that size. I mean, I used to do research, basic research, which is kind of different. I was doing cellular level. This is done at population level, but it's good enough to extrapolate that. I would not give it to my family. Let's put it this way.
No. Okay. So there you go. So it's and if we know this, then we can help say come off it,
And have a good, honest discussion with your provider. This says, okay, I heard this has happened. Are there alternatives? And they usually they can always have some alternatives, whether it's a antidepressant or stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. So now you mentioned to me as well that you're going to be training some nurses.
I do train every week. They call it back to basics with Dr. Durnas, which is politically incorrect, and they get warned, and they're warned that never put me on a speaker when they're with the family.
So what kind of things do you do? What kind of things do you go over with?
I actually, it's my philosophy is, the worst things that happen to medicine. One is insurance. Back when I was a kid, we had hardly any insurance, so you could go see a doctor for $10, get your prescription, didn't break a bank, was fine. The second thing that happened like in the 80s, specializations. Before that, a doc would take care of your whole body, basically cradle to grave for adults and pediatricians. There were the splits. So they knew you.
Right.
Now, you get a chest pain, you see a cardiologist. And he doesn't talk anything about except, a little piece of meat that weighs a pound or half a kilogram and the arteries around it. That's his job. I mean, the rest of the body, the 200 pounds that you have left over, he doesn't even know how it functions. Then you go to a kidney guy, those two little beans in the back of your, that's all they know. And the generalists, such as, I mean, I'm a dying breed in more ways than one. Uh, we feel that the whole body is a system, and not only that, your mind. So I'm kind of outlier in that I believe in the whole person that includes the spiritual, the psychological, and the somatic part as a whole. Because back in the ancient times in Romans and somno corpus, somno mentis, in healthy body, healthy mind, or vice versa. So without a healthy mind, you cannot have a healthy body, and vice versa. So my big thing right now is doing anti-aging programs. And one of the easiest things to prolong your life and have a decent end of the life. You don't want to be like the guy with a Zimmer frame and trying to get up the stairs. You want still, get a girl, go on a party, have nice night and, do whatever. Uh, so the easiest way to stay young and stay healthy is just get off your butt and walk around 8,000 steps, which is like 4 miles
Hmm.
daily. That
Hmm.
will add about 8 years, healthy years to your life.
Hmm.
So, you have good quality years, not the ones that you can go in and somebody comes in with a little porridge and puts it in your mouth because you're too drooly to help yourself. And that's what I'm trying to start is a healthy aging program. It's not really anti-aging, it's just enjoying the age and prolonging the stuff you have that you can do. So mental health also requires a healthy body. It's been shown that people that are active, they remember more, faster reflexes, faster everything. They're less likely to be demented. So you can, oh yeah, what does walking or exercise or stuff like that have to do with mental state? A lot. It
Every.
perfuses, it keeps you those neurons that, this involves brain firing.
Mhm.
So you not only you have to observe what you're doing to move your body because you just can flail around and going like this and somebody thinks you're nuts, but purposeful full movements exercise your brain just as well as thing. Reading is way better than passive watching television, uh, sitting on computer, doing Facebook and TikTok or whatever that is. So, as long as you're actively engaged physically and mentally, you will survive longer and healthier. I mean, it's what good is, staying to 100 in the last 20 years? You're just gonna in a wheelchair doing shit.
I
Uh,
I agree. I agree.
and
Yeah.
the best sport for long life is tennis. That gives you 9 extra years. So, walk and tennis, might live forever. The part thing that I think the reason tennis is one of those sports that does give you extra life extension is it's you get the what they call HIT type of training now, high intensity training, because you hit the ball, you take it easy, wait for the ball thing, and you get to run and hit it again. So it improves your reflexes, your aerobic function, get high stress, low stress in the same game. I think pickleball might do the same, right?
I think so. Yeah, and possibly badminton might as
Yes,
well. And
that's only four.
yeah,
That's
squash, squash.
that's half of that tennis. They looked at those racquetball, squash ball, and stuff like that. Tennis by a mile, and the other guys. So it's not as much movement in the other ones as you get in tennis. Plus,
Mm.
you have a good opponent instead of a wall.
Yeah, yeah. It's I thought horse riding was good
Yeah,
because again you're doing your left and your right.
right.
You've got to do the body, and then you're with an animal.
And that's the beauty because when I was back in the 70s, I worked with veterans at the veterans home, and it was in Idaho, kind of old cowboys and stuff like that. And we had a World War I veteran. He was stricken with Parkinson's, really bad. We would have to give him like medications every hour just to kind of keep him from shaking. He shook so bad that actually his bed, and it's those old brick nursing homes, he actually
Oh,
wore out
food.
the wall in there. Where the rail hit the
Wow.
he actually made tunnels with it because he was shaking so bad. We put him on a horse. I mean, the guy rode it better than I did. You know, no shaking, perfect posture. I mean, just kind of. I mean, it's amazing. It's like a miracle. But every time we took him out on a horse, I mean, the guy came alive, and it looked like he never had Parkinson's.
Wow.
And and that's been known because back when I was in training, they say people with Parkinson's are slow, they shake and stuff like that. But if there's a house on fire, they'll be the first ones out because the adrenaline can overcome the
Wow.
all. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
mind over
Now,
body.
I was with a client the other day. She had severe Parkinson's, but she didn't shake. It wasn't
Well,
that one. So there must be various different types of
uh,
Parkinson's.
well, that depends. Parkinson's kind of interesting. They're showing some connection between the gut flora, the bacteria in the gut, and your symptoms as well. Parkinson's basically has three components in it. The bradykinesia, which is slow movements, the stiffness, the tremors,
Mm.
and the gait shuffling posture and stuff like that, instability. But there are also mental status changes. And that varies on which side it starts. Parkinson's usually starts on the either left or right side. It doesn't start in the middle. It's usually unilateral. So if it starts on the right, it's been correlated with faster onset of dementia and Parkinson's. Not everyone with Parkinson's will develop dementia, and it's a special kind of dementia because it has something called Lewy bodies in it.
Right.
But the ones that develop their symptoms on the right tend to progress faster than ones on the left. So to check for the tremors, you can actually elicit those, even though if you don't see them. If you
Right.
trick, I'll show you too later.
Yeah.
But, but most people don't need to know that. But out of the triad, you can have one predominant versus the other two, and so on, depending which part of the nucleus in the brain is affected more.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's more than just dopamine
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. So go back to the nurses. What kind of things? How do you prepare them
I
uh,
usually
to deal with
start,
people in hospice?
yeah, well, the usual hospice stuff, so we're talking wounds, pain control, management of behaviors, anxiety, stress, psychosocial stuff. Let's see, where's my thingy here? Uh, uh, so it's a whole gamut because I do spiritual care, uh, uh, cancer, nausea, vomiting, stuff like that. But heart disease, which is very common, dementia, including Alzheimer's dementia, end-stage lung disease, frailty of old age, where they get that dwindles, renal disease, Parkinson's, ALS, Huntington's, that kind of stuff. So those are disease clusters. Then they do the psychosocial, how to take care of them in the nursing home because there's more rules in the nursing home than there are for nuclear industry, believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it's very regulated. Uh, and so on. So right now in hospice, about a third of the patients have cancer.
right.
And the second most common diagnosis in hospice would be dementia, which was like 25, but it's growing because as the population ages and women tend to survive men, you see more dementia in women, and they're the ones that are going to be left to be tending on their own, so they wind up in nursing homes or hospice. Guys die faster because they want to. I don't know.
Because they want to die because they're lucky. No, I don't mean that.
Exactly. Well, speaking of lucky, there's an interesting statistics which I shared with one of my nurses. Divorce rates in various couples. So, gay couples, men, their divorce rate is very low. They tend to stay together in 76% of the time. Take a man out of the marriage and put a woman. That's about 50-50%, 46, 52, depending which study you look. And you have two women, only 26 percent stay together. So the more women, the faster the divorce. Numbers don't lie. Don't look at me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we know women. We can be hard work.
You guys don't forget. Remember 1926 when you did this? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it's true. No, I hear some women. I mean, so I get some women in my office chair, and I'm like going, and I'm thinking, I'm not surprised he's having such a hard time because you sound like really hard work. I don't say that to them, but I kind of work with them to be trying to get them to understand and take responsibility.
Mhm.
Or actually, is it them that is actually a pain in the backside, you know? Um, and because I just think, God, poor guy, you really nag, you know. um, and yeah, some women,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is they're like they drive in that rear view mirror. There's always whatever behind them. That's what you're here, the road's there, but you keep remembering what's there all the time, bringing it up, bringing it up. It's like a cow chewing its cud.
yeah, No, it's true.
And guys do it too.
Elephant memory.
Yeah. I said, guys do it too, but not so you know, the guy will, you know, bitch each other out and then go out for a beer and they're all is done. Women, and you know, they hold a grudge.
Yeah, it's true, they do. Or they take a long time to feel, or they might forget. No, they might forgive, but they'll never forget.
Exactly. And it comes and serves their purpose whenever.
Yeah, they feel like it. Yeah.
So
So
that's, I'm surprised that women do get dementia. Although I had a nice
that's
couple.
why we're witches.
Yeah, I had a nice couple. They were both demented. He was a little bit more than she was. And they're both in like a assisted living and so on. So take care of him and they're doing good. And the guy died.
Oh,
So she turns around to me, she, oh, thank God that's over with. Okay.
yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
know he suffered so much, but yeah, she did actually improve mentally, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Well, she didn't lose her dementia, but she got better. So I
Yeah.
don't know what was going on there, but you know, it's
Who knows? Who knows? And you know, and she hopefully forgot, but she didn't forget the feeling of it.
yeah.
She might have forgotten the specifics, or
Mhm.
maybe not. Who knows?
The
But
sensations, the whatever, or the emotion associated with it was still deep.
yeah, yeah.
And
It's the
that's what I'm saying, you know, with dementias, Alzheimer's disease, they have this thing in common. I always tell the families and the patients, this is just like dropping a stone in the water. Where you, when your mind is still, you have your mind, but as the ripples go away, so does your memory. And the farther it goes away, the more you lose. And what's left is this, the new still waters gone because it went to the shore. So that's one way of kind of explaining dementia, that you know, start developing this new void that doesn't fit anymore with what you remembered before. So so you may remember what you had for breakfast 10 years ago, but you might not remember.
what you had that morning.
Hey.
You probably won't remember at all that, or whether you've even eaten.
Yeah, I mean, we had patients where we had to cover mirrors. They would get in a fight with the image in the mirror because the person they remembered is not the person in the mirror. There was somebody that's 20 years younger, 30 years younger. It doesn't look like that
Uh,
person in the mirror. So,
I've got a book like that somewhere. There you go. Hiding. It's called Hiding the Stranger in the Mirror.
oh, I think I might have looked at it once.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
that's interesting, you know, because a lot of them would kind of forget how they looked like. And to them, that person in the mirror was a total stranger and they found them aggressive.
mm-hmm. I didn't like them.
Yeah.
And now they're having to revisit a lot of that stuff. It's like, yeah, it's quite a harrowing book, actually.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's, yeah.
Yeah. I usually tell the families, you know, try not to show them that, you know, remember stuff, just accept them for what they are. Because it's, you remember they don't. And you're trying to force them into something that they do not believe is real. It's basically trying to alter their reality. And that's where many conflicts come from. Or if somebody died, now they ask, let's say, where's Auntie Joe? And you say, well, she died last year. And so they, you know, go through the grief process. Tomorrow they say, where's Auntie Joe? Don't you remember? I told she died. All over again. I mean, I had
I just had that conversation with Antonio Perez, actually, in the he's in a
yeah, I know him. Yeah.
you know him, yeah. And I said to him, because he was telling somebody, oh, where they kept up, you know, about his wife. And he said he had to sit and explain to him that she died. And I said, well, I said, it's interesting that you say that. I said, because there's another thought process where we can actually say to somebody, oh, they're just out shopping, or
Yeah.
they're just out they'll be back soon. Because otherwise going through the grief, like you literally just said, the going through grief all over again. However, he said that if he hadn't told him, he would go out and start looking for her, and then he would start falling, and it would be like, so he had to tell him. And I said, so now I said, well, I guess we have to take each.
Right, but there's a way of telling
basis.
and not telling. You know, you have to learn how to speak dementia, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, at one time I was like a medical director in a convent, bunch of old nuns, and this one nun had this great friend, and every time she would go to a desk, a nurse would tell, no, she's dead, and she would go like, you know, full Catholic guilt, grief, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Don't tell her.
Oh, yeah, don't tell her.
I mean, you can, you know, the things that somebody asked me about this, I said, well, you know what, there should be back in about 10 minutes. 10 minutes, they can wait. And in the 10 minutes, they will forget.
That's what I think. But apparently he wasn't, he didn't forget, and he would anyway, it's whatever it was. And I said, and I said, I guess you have to do each
right
I mean, person. But it's but I would,
yeah,
what you did.
I think it's cruel.
I would do what you would do, and just say
Whatever comes to my mind, and I have such an honest face, they believe me.
Yeah, I would be okay with saying something different.
Yeah,
that way, because the grief, especially if they are, however, if they're fearful of them, and where are they, because they like them, then actually telling them that they're dead might be a good thing.
Yeah.
like that other lady,
yeah,
better a bit after. So if she's saying, where is he, and then actually you say, oh, he's dead, oh, that's good, and then maybe each time her dementia would get better.
I mean, yeah, it can work both ways, but to me, yeah,
You did
best way is try to avoid that kind of stuff. You don't know where it's going to go.
No, and for people who have lost a baby, then it's best to get them a dolly.
Yeah. And
that's
the thing is like in one Alzheimer's unit, we actually got a bus stop and a bench assigned bus stop because they all want to go home, you know, but they don't know where the home is. You know, you take him home, he says they'll go, say, I want to go home, because to them that home is not a home. So here's a bus stop, wait for the bus, it'll take you home, and they go there and sit for a half hour, get tired, do something else.
Yeah, they changed. It was something.
There's no behaviors, no medications, nothing.
No, because you've said it's okay. Do this. You've agreed with them at that moment in time. I agree. And so at that moment in time, you're listening to what they want.
Right.
And then they sit there and they go, and then they will go, what are they doing? And you see, it's interesting because my grandma, and you've heard my story about my grandma, how she was wandering. She was never wandering. She was always going, because she was always found by the vicar, by the church.
Yeah.
So why didn't they just take her to the church? I don't know. And it's like, but that's where she wanted to go. And in the end, they ended up locking her up.
Yeah, but that's the issue. You know, you have to.
Why couldn't she go to church?
Her world is very limited, so all she knows is going to the church. You know, sit in the pool, whatever.
Why couldn't she do that?
And it's low maintenance, low cost. Church is free.
Yeah.
Unless you donate.
Why? Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but it's like, you know. Anyway, it just doesn't. You know, we get curious. That's what it's so important. And as you say, speak dementia.
Right.
And be present in their present.
Yeah.
Because what's happening for them right now? What do they need right now?
Right. And they're, let's say attention span is thing, but if they're focused on something, help them with that focus and try to mitigate any distress.
Yeah.
By any happy. Yeah. That's all you can. At that, if they're that far gone, all you can do is kind of keep him stress free, no distress. Keep them happy as much as you can, pain free, whether it's emotional, physical, mental. Uh, and it doesn't take much training. We all have it in us that we know what's good. My stepdaughter's, looking for adoption. So she's spending tons of money going through interviews to qualify for as a parent. You go down the street, a teenager plops a kid and tosses it in a dumpster. I don't see the logic in both. One has compassion, the other one doesn't give a shit. So,
Yeah.
we all have the compassion if we would like to, face it and use it. And that's what it is, soul to soul, mind to mind. The best thing that I actually do is hold somebody's hand and just sit with them and look at them. Don't have to say anything. Just, put your hand in their hand or under their knee. And it does way more than any medication I can give them. And I
Just be,
never had any issues with behaviors. And I'm talking 40 years of practice. Uh, no violence towards me and stuff like that. And then you look at these younger nurses' aides and stuff like that. They get beat up and stuff like that. Uh, and it's all in the approach. I'm trying to tell him, get in, knock on the door, wait a few seconds to recognize him, approach him, not head on, but at 45-degree angle so you don't pose a threat. I
mhm.
mean, you do the same thing with a strange dog. You don't go straight in its face, right?
No, you
Our
let it.
mammals, yeah, we are mammals. We all have the same instincts. If somebody's going in your face, you want to defend yourself. Same thing, don't come back from the back because you startle it.
Yeah,
You might
yeah,
freak out.
true. It's true.
But if you go like a slight angle so they see you and you go slow, you're not.
And smile and go
Yeah,
hello and be friendly
yeah.
and take your time. And yeah,
Simple.
it's yeah, just like you would with a child.
Yeah. I mean, don't, yeah, just because the other thing is you mentioned child. Well, I'm just going to give you a word of caution. These aren't children, even though
Mm.
their mental state, they're adults. Treat them as adults, treat them as your elders with respect. That
Yeah, don't
current
call
younger
them
generation,
all right, day, all right,
yeah,
buttercup.
no baby talk.
Is it no baby talk? Yeah, with respect, because you're quite right. These people were doctors, or they were lawyers, or they were financial advisors, or they were whatever they were. They were still adults.
Right. And
They're
they,
not, and you're right, they're not children, but do treat them as kindly as you
yeah,
would.
right.
Be as kind to
Because,
them as you would a child.
yeah, and their personality, whether they were doctor, lawyer, whatever, it's still there.
Yeah,
That's what their
that's their
core,
identity.
yeah, that's what core was. And they're like been lawyer for 30 years. Shit, they're gonna be litigating up in heaven.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's and that is all covered in everything that I'm
Mhm.
training Chet, because it's not the baby talk, because it's just awful. It's so patronizing.
Right. And the other thing is, what I'm also teaching my nurses about is grief counseling as well. Because let's say you have somebody has dementia, uh, and as it progresses, the person that it was, let's say me, as I get demented, I might need a lot of drugs, but just to keep me down. But I'm no longer Chet. The person that was Chet is dying. So let's say my family, my kids, and stuff like that will go through a grief process basically because they're losing me, and it's kind of prolonged grief. So that's where it comes in. Also, you prepare the family for what's coming on, and they're going through grief process just as if the person died
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
point. So let's, if you deal with somebody who has a parent or sister, brother, husband, spouse with dementia, make sure you don't forget the caregiver, because they're going through hell.
you're going through. Yeah, it's the long goodbye, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
horrible, horrible.
And they might be grieving before the person dies. So that needs to be addressed as well.
Oh yeah, Yeah. Do you know, I'm going to pass this by you, Chet. So my very good friend of mine, she's her mother had Alzheimer's, oh my goodness, for like over 10 years
Mhm.
and really gone bad, badly with it for the last sort of like 2 years. In fact, she's been on sort of like end of life for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So at 90, so she died at 96, literally just not long ago. She took 13 days to die. No water, no food. And my friend was saying to them, what's the longest somebody's ever lived without food or water? And they said 10 days. And she goes, so my mum's on day 11. And, and she said to me, I said, right, I said, is somebody slipping her some water? So she said, anyway, so they ended up taking her off morphine because they think it was the morphine that was just giving her enough sustenance.
Oh, crap.
And so they took
Mostly
her
there's
off.
no calories.
Well, I don't know how she was living. She was as frail as anything. Anyway, I said, what a strong heart. And what a story that would be.
Right.
My poor friend was there for nearly 2 weeks,
Mhm.
thinking every time it was like, oh, she's gonna go, oh, she's gonna go. And then
Well, yeah,
like, in the end, it was just, will you just die? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I had a person, uh, blockage of the bowel, so not demented, no food, no water, just allotted, uh, about 40 days. So something inside kept her going for some odd reason, whether to see a relative or wait for an invitation to the other side and stuff like that. Uh, so yes, on the average person does that, but uh, in your end of the world, remember those IRA guys that went on hunger strikes
yeah,
and how long they lasted? 45, 60, 80, 90 days.
yeah,
So that will vary on how much your body has in reserve and how much it uses. So if somebody's like 90s, they don't have much muscle mass, low expenditure of energy, they're not sweating, they can last a while.
wow,
And the dying process actually takes a long time just because your heart stops, your lung stops. There's parts of you still alive when they bury you or when you cremate, you're done. But
yeah, you are. Oh my gosh, really? There's
no,
bit
your fingernails can grow. There's certain parts of your skin that are still alive after a
and it
while.
and in oh, I forgot what the but that's why they ended up putting a little bell in the coffins sometimes.
Back then they didn't know that there was really that.
Somebody died or not.
Yeah, these days we got a little bit better, but there, if you look in the history, like in the 17, 1800s, they had coffin deaths,
Yeah,
births,
isn't that
where a
awful?
pregnant woman would deliver a baby in the coffin. Neither one made it afterwards, but they found, remnants of both. So that's why, the anterooms in the Irish homes when they had a wake and kept the body for 3 days in the house. That's
That's
basically to make
right.
sure
Somebody didn't
they
suddenly
didn't
wake
need any
up.
more whiskey on the way down.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you'd be get a bit of a shock, wouldn't you? Oh, shit, where's the body?
Yeah. So that's what was one of the reasons behind it, because at those days they didn't have the EKGs, EEG stuff like that to say, okay, this guy's clinically dead, it's not coming back. But that's today. But then, they put a mirror to your mouth, you didn't breathe. I mean, you could have been hypothermic, and then you warm up and you come back up. So, that's why the tradition is, not to bury him right away, except in certain cultures like in Middle East where they do it the next day because with the hot sun, if you don't bury
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
it starts stinking. But
That's why they burnt them as well, wasn't it? Put them on the
yeah.
funeral pyre and
Mhm.
just burn them going down the river. Oh dear, my goodness. And then go,
You
stop.
found out more than you needed, huh?
But that's yeah, that's the end of life thing. It's a whole long grief process.
Right. It's a
Is
grief
that-
process.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's what we're teaching is, that the person that's dying has the easy part. They do their part and they're gone. But then you have the family. And some people are, say, yeah, good life and stuff like that. But there's people that carry that grief for years. And that's where, the hospice and grief counseling and stuff like goes in because um, interesting in Jewish religion, I'm not sure, but the first week they leave you alone. So they come in, if let's say your spouse dies, they come in, take care of dishes, cook for you and stuff like that. So whole for the first week, you're basically on your own. They do everything for you. And after that, you start doing your stuff. And then the next 30 days, people check on you, help you out and stuff like that. And then after a year, I think they call it Shiva or something like that, where they come in and celebrate the life and stuff like that for the full closure. So in the Hebrew religion, prolonged grief is almost unknown because of that kind of a religious practice where, intense grieving for the first 30 days and then kind of phase out. What we do, just somebody died, you get everybody tiptoes around the stuff and, but the big thing that we can do is if somebody dies and if it's you know them well enough, stuff like that, discuss what did they did like about that person, stuff like that, to help them remember. Just the worst thing you can think that somebody forgets their loved one. They're always afraid that you'll forget them once they're gone. So if somebody helps them with that grief process and discuss what's the best thing, what you remember, the good fun memories, don't talk about crap, just talk what was good about it. And memory is as good as the memory you make today, because once you touch it, you mess it up, you change it. So if you just remember the good stuff, you just remember the good stuff.
yeah.
All the bad stuff kind of fades away. So that's why we
No,
have some things.
I've just seen somebody actually, and I got rid of a lot of the horrible stuff, the
Yeah,
horrible memories that she had. And it was interesting because then she came in with the good memories, and then that is what we embedded, the good
exactly.
memories.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's like, oh, so it's like it just completely reframed it all for her.
Hmm.
And so so it's a different type of grief now, um,
Hmm.
and which is much healthier.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to dwell on all the crap and stuff like that because it pulls you down into a hole that's deep, and then your
Yeah,
life suffers, your health suffers, and so on. And that's
yeah,
why, getting out of that funk, even before the person dies, kind of prepare them for. So with Alzheimer's, say, just remember how good they were. Where'd you go on the first date? Where'd you, go out with and stuff like that. Start building up those memories for that person and involve the person with Alzheimer's. They might remember.
yeah. Music.
Yeah.
What music do you want? And start playing some.
And there is enough research that music does stimulate certain parts of the brain that everything else does. Even animals, believe it or
Yeah,
not, react to music, and it's kind of interesting what it does to your brain. There's
yeah.
fMRIs showing that actually it's beneficial for a lot of things.
And again, you never know. Certain smells could.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you remember, the first thing you walk in a bakery, go, it smells good.
They always
Lighthouse,
like
stuff
coffee.
like,
They
yeah.
always like a certain flower or a certain perfume. But you're right. I mean, going back to the music check, because it's my understanding that hearing is our first sense that is created, and it's our last
Think
sense
so,
to go.
unless you're deaf. Especially your husband. The first, it's a beauty of hearing. That's another trivia. Is men lose high pitch sensitivity first,
So they can't
so,
hear the wife.
so they don't hear their wives. So a lot of times when I go to like a nursing home, I teach the nurses and nurses aides to drop their voice low because men tend to hear at a lower frequencies than women's frequencies, which are higher. So it's not because it ignores you, it's just this hearing is going. So remember that, Claudia. Don't get pissed. Guys, go deep.
That's really funny.
But
I
it's
like
true.
that. I
But
like
yeah,
that. Okay,
but
so
usually I say, if you're gonna talk to the guy, he says, go like this,
like, hello.
and they'll hear you better because the lower voice carries better, gets more force behind it. So that's another trivia, for Jerry.
Oh, dear. That's I'm glad you mentioned that though. That's it's a very useful
So, and you deal with, dementia. So if you have some old geezer, try dropping your voice a little bit.
Yeah, instead of my high squeaky voice. So yeah, where I know I don't when I'm doing hypnosis, I don't have a high squeaky voice, but my
Oh,
voice, I go down several
Ericksonian. you can't even see.
very it's that yeah, but
My Barry White voice, yeah.
but I do remember somebody calling once and they said, hello, is mummy there? And I went, I am mummy. Because my voice, it must have sounded like a kid. That is funny. Anyway, hey ho. So yes, I will remember that one, Chet. But on that note, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing your wonderful wisdom with us. I really do.
One more trivia. I'm here for you.
So thank you so
All right,
much.
Claudia.
All right, so have a good day. Stay on. I'm just going to stop the recording. That's all. So
Okay.
all right, thanks a lot. There we go. Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.